Welcome back to the Inspiration Station, where stories spark action. I'm your host, Mr. U. Wherever you are and however you're watching this show, thanks for making us part of your week. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, you can find all of our shows across all social media and all podcast listening platforms. Thanks again for listening. Our guest today is the master with the pen, the author of the best-selling books, Even Eagles Need a Push, The Eagle Secret, and Be Your Own Brand. He's also a producer of two inspiring documentaries, The Power of Purpose and If I Were Brave. David McNally is here. David, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm well, thanks. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Yu. This is wonderful.
Thanks for being here. Really do appreciate that. You talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, and that's purpose. When you hear the word purpose, especially in the realm of your experience, the years that you've seen purpose play out or not, what comes to mind immediately when you hear purpose? What do you think about?
Well, people struggle with purpose because many people say, "What is my purpose?" Right? And so I like them to reframe it in this way: what contribution can I make to the world using my gifts, talents, skills, and abilities? And when you look at it that way, you can dig deeper and then refine what purpose you have. It's not as individual as sometimes people think it is, but Mr. Yu, a higher purpose is really to help keep moving the world forward. I love Buckminster Fuller. He's a famous architect and philosopher. And he said, on Spaceship Earth, there are no passengers, only crew. So every one of us leaves
Wow.
our mark, and we leave our mark when we find our contribution can be, and then commit ourselves to making that contribution. That's how I look at purpose.
I like it. I just had a conversation with somebody not long ago, along the same line. See, people put their job and say, "This is my purpose," or being a parent, "This is my purpose," and there's just so much more because I believe purpose pulls us out of our comfort zone and causes us to begin to extend in the places that serve others and not so much of our self-interest. So I think purpose is a lot deeper. So I love what you said there. You talk about it a lot, but you also have a keen insight into people who are trying to rediscover purpose or transition from challenges, in their life, major transitions. How do you help somebody rediscover that purpose a lot later on in life?
Well, always to remember that purpose ends when you end. So that's a good way to look at it, right? Another phrase I like to use is that creative spirit within you expires only when you expire. So what happens in life is that we go through many transitions, and I like to describe it, in an analogy of, we're continuing to write the chapters of the book of our lives. And some of those chapters are full of joy and good feelings and happiness. And some of those chapters are full of struggle. But we need to understand that that is the journey of life. That is what life is all about. But ultimately, what happens for us is that we're also learning and growing. And so, for example, if you look at the purpose of adversity, I would suggest to you, ironically, that the purpose of adversity is to prepare you for adversity. So when you overcome your first big struggle, like when I was in my late 20s, I was already a very successful entrepreneur. And then overnight, I lost it all. I was broke.
Wow.
And then what happened to me was that I spiraled downwards for a couple of years because I regarded myself as a failure. I was a failure. And it took me 2 years, a lot of reflection, a lot of conversations with people to understand, no, I wasn't a failure. My business had failed. And many entrepreneurs have businesses that fail. But what I realized was that I still have all the gifts and talents that I had that built the successful business, what I now had was wisdom, the wisdom of the failure. And so that adversity prepared me for the future. So I was then able to start a new business in a way that said, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And that's how one keeps going. So if we look at it as an ongoing journey, that adversity is a part of life. Like, for example, what I just shared with you. Personally, I've been married twice. Both of
Okay.
my wives have passed away, one
Sorry to
from
hear that.
ovarian cancer, one from Alzheimer's. I've had a very debilitating exercise with cancer myself. And so, but all of those things, when you survive them and then even learn how to thrive again afterwards, is the part of, as I said, the writing of your book. So what I say to people is this: if you're going through a challenging time at the moment, understand that it's normal. It's not fun, but it's normal. And then say, okay, then when I look at the next chapters of my life, what what would I like them to look like? And how can I write a compelling story? What will make my life compelling? And tie that to purpose again. What is the compelling reason I can discover that gets me up in the morning?
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Now, I'm not a scientist or maybe even a genius, but it feels as though from my coaching background, my ministry background, it feels as though I'm learning most about people who deal with depression and things of that nature is that they are really solely focused on themselves and not other people. So when you mention contribution and giving back, mentoring, things of that nature, I love to hear from your assessment how important you think that is, especially in today's time when it comes to the kind of challenges that people are dealing with. Why do you think giving back is so important, and why now more than ever?
Well, one of the great ironies of life is to discover that we live life on a feeling level, right? So we want to feel good. You just talked about depression before. That's a challenging thing, and it can be a diagnosis, of course, that needs therapy and medication, and I respect and understand that. But if we're in kind of a situational depression, meaning circumstances have created the feelings that we have, how do we move forward and create the feelings that we want to experience? Well, an amazing thing about feelings is that when we give back, when we find ways to contribute to others, the great feelings automatically come. They're a part of that. It's a gift that we get. And all of a sudden, we discover that contribution and giving back is one of the best ways that we can create those feelings. But there's a bigger concept here, and that there is a principle of contribution, which means your success in life is in proportion to the contribution you make. If you look at each area of your life, you'll realize that that when they work, when they're functioning at a high level, it means that that contribution is a key and essential part of it. Look at relationships. If you're in a marriage or in a partnership or whatever it might be, the greatest fallacy out there is that relationships are 50-50. They are not. They are 100%, 100%. I'm 100% committed to you. You are 100% committed to me. I really want you to have for your life what you want. I can't guarantee it for you. I can't create it for you, but I sure as heck can support you and encourage you. And that's what I want you to do for me. When relationships are like that, they work. And they get through challenges. But it's all about contributing to each other. In a career, when people have a career, I worked with some of the world's largest companies and leaders and all of that. When you look at a career, it's all about contribution. When you look at the great leaders are great leaders. Leadership is always about people. It's about followership. It's not management. It's not the task. It's about people. So we need to ask, why would people want to follow us? Why would they want to? And they want to follow us when they believe when we believe they have our best interest in heart at heart. So we feel that. We feel their encouragement. We feel their inspiration. And that's why we follow those sort of people. I always like to bring it to a very bottom line answer, and that is because people don't think about it this way. When people look at businesses and wanting to succeed in a business, you ask them, well, what do you want to do? What do you want out of this? They say, I want to make a lot of money. Well, it's understandable. That's how I felt when I was very young. But I like to say to them, hey, think about the words that you're using, making money. And I said, first of all, you've got to reframe that. Number one, because you cannot make money. It's illegal. It's only the government makes money. You earn money. Right? The Wall Street Journal doesn't report on a company's makings, it reports on a company's earnings, which is a very interesting reframing because it means that you have to provide goods and services and consistently add value to customers before you get the chance to reap profits. So the making is not what you can do. The earning is by being of service and contributing that value on a consistent basis to the people you serve.
Good stuff. I like it. We got time for maybe one or two more questions. We're going to do our best to try to get those in. You mentioned something I thought was interesting in regards to your previous marriages. Because you deal so much with purpose and you deal so much with, making sure that you write your own story, not giving the pen to somebody else. Do you feel personally that you fully accomplished what you wanted to in regards to those relationships and your contribution to them? Do you feel like you have a sense of peace about what you've done?
I do have a lot of peace about that. And ironically, in my first marriage, the peace comes from the fact that we went through a very difficult time in our marriage where we separated.
Oh, okay.
We got back together. We were separated for 15 months. It was a long time, and in that time, the beauty of it was that we both took responsibility for what had happened and did work on ourselves to say, okay, how would we make this work again? Because essentially, what we discovered was we still loved each other. So when I look back at that marriage, I say to myself, my greatest achievement, apart from all of the books that I've written, the documentaries that you mentioned earlier, the greatest achievement in my life is getting my wife back and my 5 children who were with her.
Wow.
So that was my wife's greatest achievement. Now, when she was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 54, a very young age, I was the caregiver for 3 years. And so I spent a lot of time dedicated to her and looking after her until she passed away. So I know and feel very much at peace that my love for her was expressed in the most meaningful way. And I know she felt it. In my second wife, when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, ironically, we were married at the age of 70. Think about that. We got married at 70, and it was only 3 years later that she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So I spent 4 years being her caregiver. And I knew unequivocally that even though we had a very short marriage, that my commitment to her was the same as if we'd been married for 40 years or 50 years. So I am at peace with that, and I feel very good about that. The other thing I feel good about, and this is the greatest challenge that people have after they've lost someone, is that we said to each other what needed to be said. We expressed our love for each other. We told each other how much we adored each other and how much each other meant to the other person in their lives. So, yes, it's a very good question, but that is something I am at peace with.
I love it. Final question for you. I'm going to have your website up on the screen for those folks that are watching, not listening to us. If you're listening, the website is David McNally, McNally.com, davidmcnally.com. You can find his work here. You can reach out to David with any questions you may have regarding purpose or branding. Final question for you, David, and then we'll go ahead and close the broadcast out for today. If you can leave the audience with one message or call to action today surrounding how to be your own brand, what would you tell them?
That life. So I'm approaching 80 years of age, right?
Okay.
I'm getting on there. But life is full of possibilities. Many people look at a magnificent vista outside through the one small pane of glass in a window. And so they have a very limited perspective of what is out there. I say, step back, reflect, explore, and I will tell you that no matter where you are in your life right now, that there is a future that you can create that will be meaningful, purposeful, and full of achievement.
I love it. Author and producer David McNally is with us. His website is davidmcnally.com, McNally.com. David, thanks for being here and being a part of this conversation and sharing your story, sir. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Yes.
Pleasure is mine, sir. If you're watching and listening for the first time, thanks for making us part of your week. Please follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts. You can find all 4 of our shows. However you want to support our show, we definitely appreciate it. That's David McNally. I'm Mr. U. Have a great day. This is the Inspiration Station where stories spark action.